It's currently 4:40 a.m. in the morning, and I have an Uber to catch around 5:20, so let's get ready. Now, the craziest part about this whole thing is that I don't even look like this. I really don't. So, who's ready to go on an adventure? I'm never saying that again. I thought about saying that for days. Okay, so it's currently 5:29, and I had an Uber to catch at 5:20, so there's still certain things I need to do, like eat. But things happen. Okay, so my Uber's gonna be here in around 4 minutes, but I wanna note that you should pack everything. I'm gonna transition you guys into a video from yesterday that I pre-recorded just so you can see kind of what I packed. And I do mean come prepared. I'm not like a hoarder or anything. I'm just prepared. But over here, I brought my bag from breakfast to lunch, as well as some snacks, a KN95 mask, as well as some liquids. I brought my earphones for recording, my passport, because the guards, the soldiers, or the tour guides, whomever, will actually check your identification. It's not just good enough if you bring your ARC or, your SS or basically just any other form of identification. You have to bring your passport. I also brought my tripod because, duh, I'm filming. But over here, I'm bringing my glasses, my AirPods, my portable charger that also doubles as a taser. I'm joking. It's not a taser. It's just a flashlight. But I also brought some coins just specifically for the observatory, specifically like the observatory like binoculars. Some Aquaphor because if you know, you know. And yeah, my wallet, which comes with the air tag and some cash in there just in case, as well as for the observatory. So yeah, bring everything. And yeah, just for context, just make sure you bring everything earlier because I'm practically packing a day earlier just so I have everything so I know I'm prepared for just anything really. So just keep that in mind.
Girl, you're out.
The Korean Demilitarization Zone is not just a border. It's basically the physical scar left behind by the Korean War. And understanding it means understanding how Korea was divided in the first place.
안녕하세요. 안녕하세요. And when I mean by much further back than just the Korean War, I'm specifically talking about when Korea was a unified nation, not separated between North or South Korea, but truly a unified nation. And this was prior of 1910. And in 1910, Japan had annexed Korea, and much of Korean life, such as culture, language, and identity, was completely changed. Many Koreans were forced into labor, political resistance was crushed, and Korea simply became part of Japan's imperialistic game. But all this changed on August 15th, 1945. And in August 15th, 1945, Japan has surrendered in World War II, prior of two of the most historical and horrific events within human history, that being Hiroshima and Nagasaki, both separated on August 6th, 1945, and also August 9th, 1945. And after August 15th, 1945, once again, practically everything had changed.
But once Japan lost control, Korea suddenly had no governing authority. Two global superpowers stepped in, the United States and the Soviet Union. To quickly manage the surrender of Japan's forces, Korea was temporarily split at the 38th parallel. Soviet forces occupied the north, while American forces occupied the south. This division was originally supposed to be temporary, but the world was entering into the Cold War. The Soviet Union supported communism in the north, while the United States supported anti-communist government systems in the south. Soon, two separate governments formed. North Korea, founded on September 9, 1948, led by Kim Il-sung, officially named the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or DPRK, a communist government backed by the Soviet Union and then later China. South Korea, founded on August 15, 1948, led by Syngman Rhee, officially named Republic of Korea, or ROK, backed by the United States and United Nations allies. Both governments claimed they were the legitimate government of all Korea. This tension exploded into war.
So I just got off the bus. They're telling us to go up this mountain, and I'm not really sure what this mountain is, but I'll see you guys up there.
Panic attack.
So here I'm actually on top of the suspension bridge. It's quite windy up here, and if you can see, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of vegetation, and it's quite high up in the air, but I think we'll be okay.
That's why I say good job, basically.
On June 25th, 1950, North Korean troops crossed the 30th parallel. And when they did that, that officially started the war that we know today as the Korean War, spanning from 1950 to 1953. North Korean troops actually advanced quite rapidly, capturing much of South Korea and actually Seoul as well. And when this happened, the United Nations had stepped in. And when the United Nations had stepped in, the United States also stepped in. And when the United States actually stepped in, many historical figures actually come into play, such as Mao Zedong, Joseph Stalin, Douglas MacArthur, as well as Harry S. Truman. It's also important to note that the suspension bridge is used by some North Koreans to escape and seek refuge, sometimes in South Korea. It's not the primary source because, it is also a tourist attraction, so it's just important to note that.
Now, there was a major turning point, which was the Battle of Incheon in September of 1950. General MacArthur launched a surprise amphibious landing in Incheon. This dramatically changed the war. UN forces pushed North Korean troops back northward, while UN forces eventually crossed into North Korea. Now, China also enters the war. As UN troops approached the Chinese border near the Yalu River, China intervened massively in October of 1950. Hundreds of thousands of Chinese troops entered Korea. The war shifted again. Seoul changed hands multiple times. Millions died, and cities across the peninsula was devastated. Eventually, neither side could fully win. Eventually, the fighting slowed near the same place the war began, and in 1953, a ceasefire agreement created what we know today as the DMZ.
I'm actually here at Imjingang Park, or the Bridge of Freedom, and just take a look for yourself. If you can see, there's a ton of tour buses. There's actually some restaurants over here as well, and believe it or not, there's actually an amusement park right behind me. So I don't really know what to think. I'm just gonna say consumerism has done its toll. They're playing Dua Lipa. So initial reactions from just getting off the bus is that this somewhat feels like a tourist attraction. If you look behind me, you can quite literally see an amusement park. You can see over here restaurants and tour buses from like all over the world. And you can see a lot of people from all over the world as well, from European countries, African countries, and so on and so forth. And I've lived in Seoul for so long, which is somewhat of a homogeneous country. So seeing so many different people from so many different places, it kind of reminds me of America. So my initial reaction is about to put it in a nutshell. This place kind of reminds me of Six Flags, and I'm not trying to sound crass, but this does somewhat feel like a tourist attraction. So over here you can see some of the candy that they have. Pretty sure this is mostly northern candy. Over here you can see some of their drinks. A very common drink here in South Korea is actually soju. So I'm pretty sure over here one of these is similar to that. But yeah, that's it's like the first display case you will see when you walk in. Over here you can see the female uniforms more clearly. It comes with a hat as well as a belt. Over here you have elementary school uniforms. I believe this one is male and this one is female. So this is the souvenir shop. If you look inside, there's obviously certain things that you would assume would be in a souvenir shop that is inside here. They have some pottery over here, some little miniatures, clay models. I think these are made out of clay. I believe they sell rice here as well, but I haven't ran into it. Over here you see some army soldiers figurines over here. You obviously see some tote bags and some more hats. You see some silverware over here as well. So a plethora of different items that you can definitely collect as well as buy. So I definitely will go check this place out before leaving because this is definitely a go-to on the bucket list. So I probably just had one of the most meaningful experiences in my entire life. I just got to sit down and watch a pre-recording video about life in, well, can't say that, North Korea, and I actually got to hear and speak to a defector as well.
And a defector is basically someone who abandons their loyalty to one country, political party, or organization in favor of another one, which is often deemed as like illegitimate or illegal by that original country.
And I did not record her speaking, nor did I record her at all, or taking photos of her, just for confidentiality as well as her privacy and her safety. So in that sense, I got to ask her a lot about life living in North Korea. I got to ask her a lot about just life in general, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and I got to ask about her childhood and if she remembered anything. And practically what she told me was that they had unit leaders that would check up on families every single, quite literally, day to make sure that everybody was in the house. She talked about it was practically a surveillance state. So while some people might call it a totalitarian kind of society, it was practically a totalitarian society in a sense because they were constantly over surveillance. So apart from speaking with her about her childhood, I asked her a lot about faith as well, specifically if they had some sort of theology, whether it be monotheistic or polytheistic. And she somewhat kind of deflected the question, but she did talk a lot about her overall kind of adaptation to life outside of it. Uh, North Korea, in a sense, where she talked a lot about moving around. She lived in Cambodia and various amount of other places. Speaking about adapting, she found it quite shocking because of the propaganda that she was kind of fed growing up about life outside of North Korea, and what she practically told. Just it's raining right now, but what she practically told me as well as the others is that it was very jarring to see that life was not necessarily what they said it was. And yeah, it was quite literally an amazing experience. So the tour guide is currently talking, but I'm getting ready to cross the unification bridge or the security area. They're going to look at our passports, so I can't record this because they can fine you up to 100 million won. I think that's what he said. So you can't record because number one, they're working. Number two, this is a quite literally confidential area. So I'll see you guys soon.
That one that tells you guys how far you're from Pyongyang Daesung. It's going to appear on your left side as well. Did you guys get the pictures?
While we heard about that they were building tunnel in 1974. Eventually, 4 years after that, we were able.
Okay, so I'm currently where they have built the tunnels. Now, the tunnels were built by North Korean soldiers in order to sneak into South Korea. They sometimes snuck around thousands of soldiers an hour, and it's about 1,630 meters in length, so it's quite long. And we have to wear helmets here. And I just got off the bus, so it was all quite literally crazy. But they told us that to take off our jackets and that we're going to have to wear helmets, so to take off our headgear that we're currently wearing. And on top of that, they said it's going to be quite tight and claustrophobic at the same time. So those are just very important things to know. And what I can say from specifically that experience and going down, it's like a full-on workout, honestly. And on the walls of the cave, you can practically take bits and pieces of like the residue and actually put it on your hand. So like this is like what the tour guide or others were basically saying just do when going because it's like proof that you actually went. But it was quite remarkable because in the end of the tunnel there was like two metal plates actually blocking you from going all the way, but there was just a big enough square for both the actual metal plates that you can see directly into North Korea. So I think that was North Korea. I don't know what else it would have been, but I would say also like a 10 out of 10. So yeah, on to the next thing. So walking down those tunnels just to kind of further get you guys to understand a little bit more of what it was like. It was almost like I was in a video game a little bit, but it was still very surreal actually being able to be in the same tunnels as North Korean soldiers once were. But right now I'm in an observatory like area right outside the Dora actual observatory. And right outside the Dora Observatory, there is this one where you can actually see replicas of very important and very historical sites. So if you look over here,
The Demilitarized Zone, the DMZ, and the famous bright blue buildings, the conference row, belong to the United Nations Commands, or the UNC/South Korea, while the white or grayish buildings in the backgrounds belong to North Korea.
so regarding the stalemate, which began in 1951, front lines stabilized around the 38th parallel, and peace talks and negotiation also took place. Warfare during this time period was particularly trench warfare as well as attrition, and negotiations actually went on for roughly 2 years. Moreover, it is important to note that on July 27, 1953, the Korean Armistice Agreement was actually created at Panmunjom. And important signatures to note that was actually signed it was General William Harris Jr., which was a UN commander, as well as Kim Il-sung. It's important to note that South Korea actually did not participate within the agreement, but what this agreement did was actually stop active fighting, create a ceasefire, as well as establish what we know today as the DMZ, which is the Demilitarization Zone. So there is no official peace treaty actually in play, but it's also important to note that North and South Korea are also technically still at war today.
The DMZ is about 250 kilometers long and about 4 kilometers wide, stretching across the Korean peninsula. Roughly follows the old 38th parallel, though not exactly. It was created by forcing both militaries to pull back 2 kilometers from the front lines. Ironically, despite being called demilitarized, it's one of the most militarized borders on Earth.
And that's why We weren't allowed to take any photos or videos inside the actual observatory for reasons that are particularly legal in nature. So the entire area was heavily guarded. There was practically cameras on every single wall from the entry to the exit. So when we first walked into the observatory, it just reminded me of a normal observatory until we actually walked into the auditorium, which we ran into some, I think, Polish soldiers who were sitting down and having like a meeting, but they left quite quickly as the tour guide who was leading kind of our tour kind of told us about the cities specifically with the North Korea, as well as the one that we were seeing through the auditorium glass. I'm not going to say which city for, like, I think legal reasons. I'm not trying to get in trouble here. So what happened after that was we got to go on to the balcony, and when we got onto the balcony, we got to see North Korea with our own eyes, and we got to look through the observatory binoculars as well. And that's when we really saw North Korea. So the majority of photos and videos that I saw online were often either cloudy, foggy, or fake. Oftentimes not even looking into North Korea because it's so cloudy or foggy that they're actually just looking down at like the infantry, like kind of tunnel area where we kind of were originally, and not actually inside North Korea. So the day that I went was actually sunny, so we got to see practically everything. So I got to see one of North Korean cities with the flags. I got to see some farmers, some sharecroppers, some motorcycles. I didn't see any cars because cars are considered to be owned by people of like a wealthier social status, or just status in general. And it was quite bizarre because you register their existence, but then they don't necessarily register your existence. Like, it's just a weird psychological thing when you kind of process it. But apart from that, like I noted before, it was heavily guarded, and there were no photos or videos allowed. So I did not get any photos. So the photo I'm about to show you right now is completely and 100% AI generated. I have put it through an AI generator after I saw what I saw. This is completely fake. I did not get a photo because how would I have gotten a photo? Exactly. So so the photo I'm about to show you right about now is 100% completely AI generated. But as you can see, this is what North Korea would look like if it was a real photo, because it's technically definitely not one. And you can do that what you will. So yeah. You obviously can see it's quite sunny. You can see the flags. You might not be able to see farmers or kind of various people, but you can definitely see the terrain as well as kind of what the geography is like specifically around it. So do that what you will, and it's 100% AI.
It's also very important to note that while the majority of the conflict had ended around 1953, there was still violence around the area, specifically with events around the 1960s as well as the 1968 with the Blue House raids, where 31 North Korean commandos actually entered Seoul trying to assassinate the president during the time, which was just insane. And then also in 1976 with the axe murder incident, where U.S. soldiers and South Korean soldiers actually were trying to chop down a tree that was blocking visibility, and North Korean soldiers do what one does with an axe with intention, assault and battery. So yeah, there is it's still a very dangerous area, but somehow it's also somewhat of a tourist attraction. When it comes to reflecting on the DMZ, specifically in the lens of South Korean citizens, it represents a multitude of different things. It's quite multifaceted. It represents division, it represents hope for unification, it represents pain, it represents tension, it represents a loss of quite literally culture, tradition, as well as identity. But it's also very important to note that while the DMZ holds a lot of trauma as well as tension, it also holds a lot of beauty. It's quite sublime in a sense. You can quite literally see endangered cranes to rare mammals to wetlands to forest. It's what environmentalists call a accidental preservoir. It's beautiful, truly, because humans stayed out of it for decades, and It's almost like a full cycle of life in a sense, dust to dust.
Okay, so I finally just made it back to my room after a bus ride that was long, but at the same time kind of short. So I'm still unpacking that, but I'm also still unpacking the entire thing. So, yeah, I just wanted to stop and just give somewhat of an explanation as to why I went to the demilitarization zone today. And it's quite multifaceted. It's similar to the whole reason as to why I went to Seoul for my second semester of my sophomore year of college. And it's for specifically two reasons overall. It's first personal reasons as well as academic reasons, and the academic reasons being that I get to be in a homogeneous country and live among the people to understand people the best of my ability, as I'm a firm believer that you can never really fully understand a person even if you just walk in another person's shoes, because you're just only walking in another person's shoes. But it's also to form an intercultural competence as well. So that's many of the reasons as to why I wanted to come to this country, and also to go to such a historical event and learn more about the Korean War and the country that I'm actually living in today. But for the personal reasons, it has a lot to do with how one interprets the past, or just interprets life in general, as there's not much in this world that is perfect. But one thing, in my opinion, that is perfect is the past. And that is something that cannot be improved upon. So it is up to you to decipher how you will interpret it, whether you will love it, whether you will hate it, whether you will learn from it, whether you will deny it, whether you will just burn it, whether you forget it. It's up to you. And getting the opportunity to go to the demilitarization zone, it really allowed me to see in somewhat of a drastic way that kind of ideology of mine kind of in the forefront. And I saw how a place that is marked by its past overall developed and gain life in obviously the actual physical sense, but also somewhat in the overall just atmosphere as well. And it brought quite literally some people around me to tears, especially hearing from the defectors. So it was a beautiful experience, but I cannot lie, but the leading cause of to why I went to this place, and specifically alone, was, this might sound outlandish to everyone, and that's rightfully so, because it is quite literally crazy. It's because of a story that I created when I was quite young, not really young, but young, that I think about every single day. And realistically, I can't live without it. And it was heavily inspired by specifically North Korea and totalitarian societies and regimes, as well as fascist societies and regimes. And I'm not one to critique the way one's life goes, just trusting the flow of one's life. But I didn't also think I was going to be able to go to this specific spot so young at the same time. So whatever, I didn't make the choice. But it was for one of the many stories I want to tell one day, as I want to be a storyteller. And I got the chance to see a place that inspired quite literally the one of, if not the most important aspects of my entire life. And as a person who wants to be a storyteller one day, it was everything to me. It was pure inspiration. It was just gold, really. But yeah, I didn't get to take photos, obviously. I said that beforehand because of confidentiality reasons, but I did get to take a photo with one of the characters. This is just a concept drawing. I'm not going to describe the story, and obviously the face is inverted, but I wouldn't worry about anything I'm about to say right now until the future, hopefully, But yeah, that character's name is Drainy Fam. She was born in the 2100s in Sector B16. That is all I'm gonna say. I know that makes absolutely no sense, and I don't expect it to make any sense to anyone. But yeah, I got to take photos with other concept drawings I drew. But yeah, getting the opportunity to see a place that inspired. Something that quite literally saved my life. I'm still processing it. So yeah, I do want to thank you all so much for taking the time to actually watch this video, whether you found it to be just something to watch during lunch or you found it to be somewhat of like, I don't know, profoundly provocative narrative. I truly do hope you took something away from it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you learned a lot. Sorry I couldn't film certain things, and sorry about the audio. I need another mic. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys later.